So let's start out with some wins. And I don't know whether you coaches, you have any clients to brag on there for you coaches. And then you guys that come along, let's not underestimate little wins. They don't have to be huge wins. It's anybody wins, right? So just let's just speak out on that one. Anybody, coaches, anybody?
Yeah, it's not a huge win, but one of my newest guys, Phil Goals with PWG Plumbing, he texted me last night, and we just got listening live, and he got his first call from the business listing. It's only $150, but he was pumped about it. It was his first one, so he's finally dipping in that Google pool.
I mean, just pure organic, just simply because he began to show up. Boom. Yeah. Yeah. And Bryce, didn't you talk about some guy that almost grew like 700% almost from the Google reviews by themselves? Was that you or another coach? 682%.
Yeah, that was Manny Lincoln with Imagine Restore. He was between December 2020 and December 2021. His sales volume was about 600% greater this year, simply because of Google local services. So we finally got that. It was a huge, long, drawn out process. It was frustrating as heck, but we got him on local services. And as of the last 2 months, yeah, he's really been kicking it on there. And I think he had I think it was like 150,000 in sales just in 1 month, which was huge for him. So
yeah. And it's almost a 700% growth. Anybody else? Coaches, clients?
Can I say something?
Yeah, Jose, come on, man.
I tried Thumbtack before and it was a disaster. And
Okay.
after Nicole pushed me to get some Google reviews, I got only 20 so far. And then last September, she mentioned about Thumbtack, and I kind of said, I'll do it, but it didn't work in the past. So last night I was doing the numbers, and I still have clients from last year that I gave estimates. They're calling now, because stuff happened, people passed in the family, and now they're ready to move forward. And I was doing the numbers last night from September to December. I spent $460 a week on Thumbtack, and I sold 600,000.
Okay.
That is awesome.
Nicole, we got to know this secret here. What did you do? This magic.
8,000.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Jose, if you don't mind sharing, when did you start your company?
March
March of last year.
Yep.
Brand new company.
And what did you end this year at revenue wise?
Was over 1.3.
1.3 million.
Wow. Did you make a profit in that, or did you just more contribute to everybody?
Now I reinvested, because when I started, I had only one truck. So I bought
A lot of business investments this year,
Yes.
investing back into the business,
but
but
I bought
definitely
2 vans.
profit.
Yeah, and about 17% net, I think, if
Yeah.
I would have taken the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's the profits your business produced. Now, what you decided to do with those profits is reinvest it. That's fine, especially early on here. But I mean, 17%, 1.3 million, you know, I mean,
First
that's,
year.
yeah, it's a couple $100,000. And so that probably gets you kicked off the free government cheese program here, but
Oh yeah.
As
Anyway.
long as you do good work, Jose, thank you so much for being willing to share.
No problem.
anybody else? Coaches or clients?
Hey, Tim Dwayne in Atlanta.
Yeah. Hey, let's just for a second here, Bryce, let's pop out for a gallery here so everybody can see everybody right now during this time. And then we know we're talking about wins. I think it's a great deal, but what's going on? You and those pink dumpsters, tell me some good news.
So we've been tracking since we started with you guys last year. and I track how my leads come in. So first time ever. So we only get a few repeat customers throughout the year because I guess they clean out enough of their junk at one time. But the first week of January, we had 27 repeat customers. And there was some months throughout the year last year, we didn't even have but like 10 repeat customers. So I thought that was a pretty good thing to have 27 repeat customers.
That's pretty huge. That's pretty huge. That's awesome, man. And your average sale on that is what's your typical rental?
We just increased our price, so so last year it was $305. Now the average is $325.
Right. Is that per week or is that just per stay?
Each rental is for up to 7 days rental.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Good. Anybody else here? We'll wrap this up here, but anybody else? Because we love these wins. We these wins are they got a magical ability to be contagious for some other businesses, and so don't hold back the wealth here if you got something. Don, tell me some good news that's happened here in the last couple of days. You still able to walk?
Yep. One of our wins, it wasn't this week, but the hiring process and having people in the pipeline. For the first time last week, we run a 2-man crew for some of our divisions, and we had a guy call in because he had a family member pass away, which kind of sucks, but we were able to call one of our other guys that have job shadowed that we haven't quite offered a job to, had him able to come in, and so we were able to continue with our scheduled work just because we have a pipeline of people to call now.
That's awesome. That's really, really good. Good news. And there's nothing like finding somebody that can actually show up that wants to work. It seems like an act of God nowadays. So really, really good to hear, Don, on that. Hey, we're going to shift now. Before we get going on some of the training, I wanted to ask you up front, and I'm not sure if this is something harder you can note here if we have any. Does anybody have any question or any process or anything you want to ask about or have us discuss having to do with any issue, any burning fires, anything going on in your business you want to make sure we address today before we get off? Anybody have anything?
And feel free to type it into the chat too, and we can make note of it there as well. So if you want to think about it, type into the chat. If something immediately comes to mind, we just want to make sure that we're able to address any big concerns or questions that anybody may have.
I have a question.
Tell us.
Is there any easier way to write down SOPs? Or how I want things done, or I have to sit down and I'm
And
just
get it all out of
asking, is
your
there
head.
an industry standard that I could do? Let's say we're gonna build a deck, that's how we do it. But because I do so many different jobs, different services, I was just wondering if there was something ready that I could use.
Yeah, so what we're gonna do, Jose, is we're gonna write that question down. Bryce, will you make note of it for me? And then at the end, before the end of this meeting today, we're gonna have a session that we're gonna be answering these types of questions, and we'll make sure to answer that one for you.
Yeah, real good. Anybody else? Burning issues, things you say, hey, let me just get somebody else's opinion on what we're doing. And so while you guys are thinking about this, I've just posted up here a real good. Thank you, Bryce. I just posted up here on the chat. If you guys would go down on your Zoom and where it says chat down there at the bottom, if you can click on that for a second, we have a link there that shows all of the coaching sessions that we have available for the 20-minute session. So the idea here is we're going to be scheduling a couple of times a month that you meet with your designated coach one-on-one, but you can meet with them as many times as you want and really make sure, I mean, our whole goal is to get the straightest line between 2 points of where you are versus where you want to go in your business. And I'm going to share my screen just for a moment. And we by clicking on that chat, boom, we get here and we get right to the laser coaching focus sessions here. And so you can look at that. You can choose your coach or anybody else that may have an available slot. So let's say we look at Nicole and we look at her schedule here, and you can see that next week, well, gosh, I've got a little bit of downtime on Tuesday early in the morning. I want to schedule an 8 o'clock call, boom. And you just actually confirm that, and it doesn't, even if Nicole is not your designated coach, you want to work with her for whatever reason, you can certainly do that. That allows you to do that now. And you can pick anybody. Let's say you want to get, a little time with me. I have a coaching slot about every 4 years available. No, I'm just kidding. So let's say you wanted to come in here, and on Thursday, I've got a whole lot of slots here available because I accidentally left that many open. So anyway, but that's the idea of it, is you go in here and say, listen, I want to meet with a coach, and each of the coaches are very, very busy with a whole bunch of clients most of the time, but we have slots available where we can schedule a call to be able to meet with us. Boom. It's as easy as that, going out to this thing. So make sure you have this, this link here available. And coaches, you guys can put that on the agenda as well for people. Nicole, I've already seen that you've started to do that. And it's probably other coaches doing it too. But putting that on there just to make sure, if you want to go one-on-one, you got to define the issue, define what you want to talk about. And it's not talking about trying to solve 20 things. It's one issue. We get it done. We get real clear on understanding, next steps to take, and then a follow-up if we need to on that. Does that make sense? And yeah, so we'll make sure, Don, we'll make sure that it gets out to everybody, that link, and each of the coaches are going to cover it with you guys in their meeting. That's going to be a standard part of the towards the top of the document. I just was looking at one of Nicole's clients and found that she had put it right there in the top. So I think that's great. So we'll get that out to them. But if you can copy and paste that thing, boom, that'd be great. All right. And then also, just to make sure you guys understand, on going out to the slot where we have our calendar, the Redmond growth calendar. Are y'all got this lined up here where you have the calendar and you've subscribed to it? It's going out here to the Redmond growth calendar, and making sure you click on that, make sure you put it into whatever calendar type of calendar you have. And that way you can see what we're doing. We're going to start posting a lot more information about each session going forward. So you want to be able to look at that calendar, make that part of your calendar as well. So, and any questions on that, what we covered on that here? This is
I got one on it.
Please.
That's I know me and Jonathan talked about that last week. The calendar isn't a Google calendar, it's a Google online calendar. So the stuff like the Zoom meetings and that doesn't show up on my Google Calendar.
Yeah, what happens here is there should be an ability to adapt that onto your, you actually can make it part of your desktop calendar or phone calendar. Just
But
by,
the choice it gave you, well, like when you, the thing you just pick, like where you pick and what calendar you want, it doesn't have Google Calendar isn't part of it. It's just a Google Online Calendar.
okay, well, I will double check on that. Let's see if I can do this here correctly, but here's basically, if you haven't already done this, you want to make sure you get your name in there. Email, continue to two-step process. And you get that, and then you add it to the calendar, and
You want
then,
to share your screen, Tim?
oh my gosh, I thought I was sharing my screen. Nicole, doggone it, I can't believe I was doing all that wonderful work here. Let's rewind that tape just a little bit. Boom. And we'll go back on that. All right, so it's a two-step process if you haven't done that. Now, the online calendar should be able to, I mean, Google is online. That's how it's 100% of its calendar. It's not online and offline calendar. There's a calendar you can adapt into your phone or adapt into your laptop or your desktop. And but that is an online calendar. So it's a two-step process. Number one, putting in your name, and then putting in your email address. Okay, we push continue on that. And then you add it to the calendar. Now it has online calendar here, just like you said, but it has all these other calendars. And the online calendar, you should be able to work with that, Gary. You should be able to make that where it talks to your phone and desktop or laptop.
Yeah, Tim, if I could interject here.
Please.
So, Gary, on that, when you first sign up, there's a chance where you may have to go through the steps twice, but you first need to sign up on a desktop. And then once you've got it subscribed on your calendar, then it should populate over on your phone as well. The other thing that Tim was sharing a couple of minutes ago is different. The Calendly is to schedule the 20-minute laser focus calls. The thing that he's showing right now is to get access to the calendar that we're on right now, these weekly Zoom clinics. So you can work with Jonathan specifically. He can help you troubleshoot, and you could even use that document that's in the chat to schedule a 20-minute focus call to help you, figure out problems specifically.
Yep. And you see how it actually adds to your calendar on my laptop, although this is online. There's not a not online one. Now there's like Outlook has a desktop non-online, but most calendars nowadays are online, but they talk to whatever computer, whatever device you have. So it will show up as another calendar that you can add to it or take it out. Now, we're going to be updating these calendar events to show you what the topic is going to be, what the talking points are going to be, how to get downloads on the Zoom calls. And as a matter of fact, Harley, if you can, before we get out here, show people that the Zoom document that you've created. I'd like to be able to show that, but we'll be officially sending it out to everybody by text and email. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I'll have to figure it out because I'm on my calendar on my desktop and my phone right now, and it's not on there. And I've did the thing twice where I put in my name, my email, I've selected the calendar, but it doesn't show up.
Okay, and so what? Jonathan's your coach?
Yeah, I'll
All
go do it with them. I got to be doing something wrong, but I can't figure it out.
Yeah. So and we can get that sorted out here. And there's part of me would like to just even take, have you give me access to your screen, but just for the sake of time here, I'm going to pass this on to our mindset here. And Hardy, why don't you take off on that?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let me get back to the presentation here. All right, folks. Well, good to see you here today. We're going to cover a lot of good information. So if you have a notepad, take it and use it, because there's going to be a lot of good stuff that you may have heard before, may not have heard, but at the very least, you're going to leave with some good nuggets of knowledge. And so the main topic I wanted to get into here was working on your business versus in your business. And I'll start by just a couple questions that should relate to every single person. And you can do this by a show of hands or commenting in the chat. But how many of you have wanted to work on something that was for growing the business, and then you got distracted and couldn't do it in your day? Oh, Roger, raise his hand, so big. And I know this is a thing that comes up for all of us. Yep, Zach, there we go. Another one there. Or, how about this? You had a perfect schedule you lined up at the beginning of your day, where you had your meta time at the beginning and it looked really good. But then distractions came up, things got in the way, and you've been wanting to work on a checklist or whatever. And so what I wanted to dig into was how important this is, and a couple really easy ways to guarantee that essentially no matter what happens, you're able to spend some time working on the business. And a good way to there's some of you that are newer to working with us. And so I just want to make sure to lean in on how vitally important this is by doing an image of the progress from a normal worker to a thriving business owner. Because all of us start off in our trade by being a worker. We spend years doing what we're doing. We become a lead tech. And then for some of us, we stick around with the company and we're loyal, we're a manager, but at some point we decide, hey, I can make more money doing this on my own. Whoever I'm working with, I can do better than them. I can run my own ship. I want to build my own future. So we become a solopreneur. And sure enough, everyone that works with us, they actually end up being pretty good technicians, where they've built up a good bit of business for themselves. And so they start to bring on some employees, and they become a worker man owner. And what we mean by that is a worker man owner, someone that's doing everything in the business. They're going through and doing payroll. They're going through and taking all the estimate calls. They're taking all the phone calls. And so they're really busy people keeping things up. But then at some point, everyone's hope is to become the business owner man, where you got a group of staff that you've delegated your tasks really well to, that you can trust, and you're not necessarily spending 70 hours a week every week anymore on your business. But the big problem is that most of our clients, most business owners in general that have kept a business, have a lot of trouble going from this worker man owner to a businessman owner. And
Roger, as somebody who has kind of is in that transition, has probably broken free from that transition a little bit, Roger, would you be willing to kind of share what that transition has looked like for you, what some of your biggest struggles has been, biggest revelations? Just kind of give us some entrepreneur perspective on that. I think you have to unmute real quick.
So yes, it's a daily battle for time. Ultimately, you've got to schedule it and adhere to it, even if it's 1 hour blocks. I've actually, on our agenda, I've got a quote that says, "A wise man once told me, schedule the most important parts of your business," by Robert Redmond. So he knows what a struggle it is. And he kept telling it to me over and over and over. So it's a permanent posting as a reminder on our weekly agenda that we go over. And it's a constant battle of time. I mean, by nature, I am a technician, no doubt about it. I mean, that is my forte. I can do it with one hand and my eyes closed practically. So I gravitate towards the urgency of the field operations naturally. But as far as doing the most important things in my business, it is important that I schedule those times and get away from doing everything in the evenings when I can have just solitude and focus time. So it's a daily battle, and I'm constantly battling interruptions, but typically, and it's very true, if you an hour at a time, people will survive without you for that hour. You know, they just will. And a lot of times problems will solve themselves.
Thank you so
no,
much. Words
great
of wisdom right there.
Yeah, great insights, Roger. Although I think I see a Zach Potts here on the call with us as well. Maybe?
Yes,
No?
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Zach, I know you're here. And you've been a man that's worked with me for 2 years and I've seen you go through this transition where you've been able to take off multiple months from being connected to the business because of a guy like Trevor, who's on the call as well, being a stud for you. So Zach, can you speak a little bit to this too, how this transition has been from being a worker man to a business owner man?
Yeah, sure. You know, I didn't hire you guys until I was 13 years in business. And I came to a conference and Clay Clark said, everybody's going to have to work 80 or 100 hours a week their first 5 years. And I had already done that. And then I had to do it again with you guys, which is super frustrating. But really long story short, last year was my second full year with you guys. And the last 3 months of the year, I worked 2 hours a week in my business.
How much growth did you experience?
We grew 60% the first year I was with y'all and 60% the second year I was with y'all. We went from 850,000 the year before we hired RGC to 1.3 million the next year. And last year we finished at 2 million.
And you're no longer working 80 to 100 hours per week.
No, all of last year I worked about 30 hours. And then the last 3 months I worked about 2 to 3.
Now, Zach, some people are hearing you right now. They're like, how the heck can this guy do that? You are just so annoying to me right now. Zach, how did you set this up where you're no longer working 70 hours a week every week?
Oh, systems and scripts. I mean, Roger, I heard you talk about being a technician. I mean, the hardest thing for me to do was to take my tool bag off. I feel like I wrote scripts forever that first year. But, you know, the first thing I did was hire a project manager. That's Trevor. And we looked, you know, for an A player. And before we hired him, Harley helped me write his job description and then a daily workflow from, you know, basically hour to hour throughout his day. And that helped me give him direction so that he could succeed. And then we did the same thing for an office administrator who does everything from our books to taking calls to outbound calls. Harley kept trying to talk to me about marketing, and I just wanted to stop the business from coming in so we could catch up. But the cool thing was the marketing we worked on led to, you know, over double. Last year we were running over double our leads we were running when I hired RGC. So that covered those 2 new positions. We started a whole new crew. We went from 2 company trucks to 7.
But it didn't happen overnight. None of it. The growth didn't happen overnight. You working less didn't happen overnight. It sounds to me like putting systems in place and doing the things that a typical technician doesn't do. They don't write scripts. They don't sit down and say no to the job that we're on, or say no to the customer that's calling and say, no, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to be stubborn about outlining this checklist of how to, for my project manager, so he can check a job when I'm not there. It's about being stubborn, about sitting down and writing out that script so somebody else can do sales. And so it definitely didn't happen overnight, Zach, but we really am so happy to see where you're at currently and where you're headed. And really thank you for sharing. A lot of wisdom in there.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some of you here where you're hearing these stories. You want this to be you. And so here's why some of you might have trouble getting to this next step. You're really good at what you do. And because you're really good at what you do, it's tough for you to stop doing what you're good at. It's almost a little bit of an ego trip. Like, man, I'm good at this stuff. Why would I let someone else do it? And because of that, a lot of times we don't trust others to do it as well as us because we are the experts. We left and became our own owner because of this. So getting some person to come in and do these jobs for us can be scary. And furthermore, you may have tried to train people, but those people have disappointed you and you're left picking up the scraps and you're not wanting to make that same mistake. And so ultimately we might lose patience and think it's just easy to just do everything yourself. And so we're in this constant battle, almost like a Jekyll and Hyde situation of, oh man, I just want to finish up those jobs, but man, I don't want to keep doing this forever because my back is going to get thrown out and I can't make money. So, but as Michael Gerber would say, who is the author of the E-Myth classic book series for business owners, and you might want to jot down this quote and use it if you're having struggles with this. If your business requires your presence, you don't have a business, you have a job. And you're employing yourself. And so if we want to create this transition from being a worker man to a business owner man, 3 simple things. One of them that Roger said is you just got to make time for it. As he described there and as Zach described, he slaved away for the first year writing down these scripts and systems. We just got to make the time, even if it's dead in the morning, or we make an excuse to say, hey, Tex, don't call me for an hour. I'm not going to answer. I need to work on this. You got to make the time because it's so important. And then secondly, take it one step at a time. You can't solve everything at once and can't build all of your systems for everything in a business, even in a month, because then you got to test it out and make sure it actually translates to the field. So take it one step at a little time, like baby steps, like in What About Bob, the classic 90s movie. Take it baby steps. And then thirdly, focus on the things that are actually on the business activities. Because there's a lot of times business owners, they'll take this dedicated time and work on estimates. But that's great, sales activities, but on the business activities is focusing on your lead tracking and reviewing what's going on with your marketing, which hint, that's something Nicole's going to be talking about right after this. Second, we also got to track the income and expenses. Are we actually profitable, or are we just spinning our wheels? Another great on the business activity. Creating these checklists and processes, and then also making sure there's weekly team meetings that happen. I can't tell you how many times business owners, when they finally commit to doing this, they tell me how impactful it is to do weekly team meetings and how they couldn't have imagined not doing it in the past. So these are all on the business activities to work on the business. And even though it might be frustrating and take time, if you never stop, by this time next year, you'll have a well-oiled machine that you'll be happy to own. So one of the things that Nicole wants to dive into here is tracking and knowing your numbers. Do you want to take the wheel here, Nicole? I can stop.
I sure can.
Okay.
Let's see here. Bear with me.
As Nicole's queuing that up here, folks, We worked with a lot of clients over the years, and this is not a time to get on to yourself. It's a time to say, what is the next step that's going to help me move towards the freedom that I want for the business to work for me instead of me working for it. So it's not condemning yourself. It's finding the next step for you to take. And you may be one of the guys that was like an HVAC guy that I've known since he was a kid. We were coaching for a while, and he just wanted to be in the field. He loved the work. He loved the HVAC work. So it's like, I don't want to manage. I don't want to do all this. I don't want time freedom. I want to crank a wrench. Okay, whatever floats your boat, but talk to your coach about what you want your business to do for you and what relationship you want to have with your business. And we will take you there step by step. That's what we're trained to do. And so I'm super excited about this presentation.
Yeah, well, while Tim Redmond is here, because Tim loves to heckle me about knowing numbers, because he knows that I am historically somebody that, avoided math class like the plague, don't enjoy doing numbers. How many of you all here became a business owner because they're real passionate about numbers? Can I get a show of hands? Okay. I'm not surprised. Okay, Zach raised a hand. So we got one. Tell me if anybody's willing to share. Tell me here, maybe Gary or Roger or Don, anybody, why did you get into business? What caused you to want to own a business? Trevor, does anybody want to share? I'm not going to ask Tim because Tim did get into it for numbers. So I'm not asking him.
Yeah, I mean, if numbers mean dollars, that's why I got into business myself.
Financial freedom and time.
Okay, financial freedom and time, but you wouldn't say that you got into the business because you wanted to sit down and do bookkeeping all day.
Absolutely not.
Okay. So most business owners are right there with you. In fact, when I talk about numbers, I typically can hear their eyes rolling on the other side of the phone. I can hear the deep breath, the dread that comes along that. These are one of those core activities that if we do not commit to knowing our numbers, we might as well close doors. It's one of those core activities to your business that's so vital when it comes to making decisions, when it comes to measuring activities, efficiency, growth. Numbers are truly one of the most important systems that we teach here at Redmond Growth, and we try to make it as easy and enjoyable as possible, but it's still numbers. So I want to go in here to our next slide. So if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. So many times I hear clients say, well, I know we pulled a profit last year, or I think we grew from last year. We need to know. We need to know our numbers. We can't make decisions. Oh, I don't think I've ever gotten anything from Thumbtack. Do we know that though? Or I don't think it's paid for itself. Do we know that? By knowing our numbers, this is actually going to be the best way that you're going to be able to know your business and be able to make decisions. When is it time to start implementing tracking? These are some of my favorite quotes. I know we're making money, but I don't know where it went. That's a sign.
How many has said that here?
I don't, my accountant told me that I pulled a profit this year, but I don't know where it went. I don't have that money. Who's been there? I'm pretty sure we were busier this month last year. Who's experienced that? thinking about the year past. Oh, I think we were busier. I think we had a good week this week. You'll notice a lot of I thinks in these. I know we're profitable, but I'm just not sure how profitable. Who's been in that situation? Knowing that you're profitable, but really not sure the amount. It seems like they don't close a lot of jobs, consistently bring in less, get called back out the most. Who has been in a situation where you're really not sure how your individual team players are doing? You're really not sure what they're producing or what their closing ratio is, or why they're not able to bring in as much as the other guys. I don't think we have anybody who owes us. This is a big one. One of my clients told me that he had a collections issue. And I was like, all right, you're a restoration company. I'm not surprised by this. Working with insurance, what do we have? Like $30,000, what do we have in collections? Over $300,000 in collections. And that was only going past the past 3 years. And so there was probably a lot more than that from years before. But they were not tracking. They weren't tracking their collections. They weren't tracking their numbers. What tracking does for us is it allows us to shift from fact versus opinion, from feeling to fact. Fact is what's true. It's what's real. It's what exists. That's what numbers can give us. Opinion is that belief, that feeling, that judgment. If anybody is willing to share, has anybody ever had that moment in their business where they're like, oh, I thought we were doing good and now I'm realizing that we were definitely not. Or the opposite, where you thought you were doing bad and realized that you actually weren't doing too bad. Has anybody here ever been in that situation and is willing to share about it? Roger, please. Unmute real quick.
Yeah, I don't know how much there is to share about it, but it's not a good feeling. It's that one where your body
No.
in a sweat from head to toe, and you're like, ooh, why didn't I know this was happening? Yeah, it's not a good.
No, not at all. Where you're like, man, I have my phone's ringing off the hook. I have 4 trucks in the field. Things are going real well, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't have any money.
Yeah.
I'm working really hard and I have nothing to prove for it. And I think most business owners at some point in their life has been there. So this brings me to, when in doubt, we need to track. What should I be tracking? Core KPIs for your company. These are the most vital data points to your business because these are the data points that determine our growth. How many leads, how many appointments or quotes, how many jobs, and what weekly revenue is required to hit the end of the year goal. I'm going to show you guys an example here. This is one of our core KPI trackers. What you'll see here is we have the total amount of leads that are coming in each week. We also have the goal of how many leads we need to have coming in each week. How many appointments do we need to set? And then we're keeping track of how many we're actually setting. What is our percentage, our closing rate currently? How many jobs have we completed? What is our current average ticket total? And what's our weekly revenue? By keeping track of these numbers, it helps us identify the areas in the business that need the most attention. Are we not getting enough leads? So we can't reach our goals? Are we getting enough leads, but we're not able to close them? Are we doing a lot of work, but our average ticket total, if we're needing to be around 926 and our average ticket total is around 400, we're going to have to do double the amount of work in order to actually reach that revenue goal. Your core KPIs. If you do not have a core KPI tracker, please let us know. Who here has a document similar to this that they have started filling out? that they're using to track their numbers.
Nicole, does everybody know what KPI stands for?
I do. Zach, what does it stand for? Zach, can you tell us?
Key performance indicator.
Key performance indicators.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. The next thing that we have to track is employee performance. How many jobs are they completing in a week? What's their closing ratio? What's their weekly revenue? And this isn't just for service companies. You can track employee performance when it comes to project managers, when it comes to salespeople. There's always a way to be able to track your employees' performance. What this spreadsheet does here is this is a simple tracker that we use to track service guys, you know, how many vans are in the field. What you'll see is on a week-by-week basis, we're able to see how much revenue they're bringing into the business, how many opportunities we sent them out on, how many appointments did they go, how many sales appointments did they do, and then how many of them did they actually close, did they actually end up winning the job and doing the work, which is going to generate our average ticket. This is going to help you be a better leader. If you do not know your numbers, you're going to be very poor as a leader because you're going to be operating by feeling instead of fact. And by looking at a spreadsheet like this, you're able to identify the areas that each team member needs to improve. Is it that they're having a bad time closing? Is it that they're estimating incorrectly? Their average ticket total is low. Are they moving too slow so they're just not able to get to as many jobs as we need them to? If we are not tracking, we're not able to see those numbers and we're not able to support our team. And so as a leader, as a business owner, this is vital core information that you need in order to really be a leader to your crew, to your guys. And then profit margin. On a monthly basis, we need to know how much revenue versus how much profit. We have a very simple tracker for this. This is an example here where we're able to keep track of every single month, how much revenue came in and how much was left over for profit. And then it's going to give us our percentage of profit margin. We want to see this be consistent. We want to make sure that we're not dipping. We want to make sure that those numbers are growing. We want to be able to total them at the end of the year. Because if you're growing, but your revenues or your profit's not growing, or you still have a profitability issue, then ultimately none of the growth that we're experiencing matters. And so we have to pay attention to that profit margin on a month-by-month basis.
Can I say something on that?
Yes, please.
So there's this quote that we learned from the Profit First World. Redmond Growth is certified in a cash flow management. It's kind of like an accounting system, but not really a cash flow management system called Profit First. And your coach can tell you about that system if they haven't already implemented it. But they have this quote that I love, which is focus on profitability improvements over top line revenue growth. And by doing so, your top line revenue will grow. And so if you have a $10 million business at a 5% net margin, that's the same as having a $5 million business at a 10% net margin, which is, you know, the same as having a $2.5 million business at a 20% net margin, right? So sometimes, and typically when the revenue grows, that adds stress and chaos to our daily whirlwind, our daily lives. And so what Nicole is saying here is simple, but it's probably the most overlooked thing that we see with our clients is that they're not paying attention to that profit margin. And at Redmond Growth, we say that's the most important thing to pay attention to. And if you pay attention to that, that's going to lead to top line revenue improvements. Why? Because paying attention to your margin will lead to a higher quality of service. It'll lead to your business operating more efficiently. It'll lead to you requiring to have better systems, better documentation, which will give your customers a better experience, which will cause your business to grow. So anyway, I just want to say that.
Yes, yes. So if you have an area in your business that seems to not be working as well as it should, please type it into the chat. We want to see that. We want to know about that. Tell your coach, book a 20-minute laser coaching call so you guys can diagnose that issue and come up with a system to solve it. These are some of the areas that I see most often needing to be tracked, but is not. Accounts receivable, weekly numbers for each service truck, number of quotes versus number of closed deals, leads in each stage of the sales process, your profit first accounts, estimate comparison, Dream 100. If you have an area in your business that you do not think is being efficient, or you're not sure where the bleeding is, I know something's wrong, but I don't know where, please set up a laser coaching call, put it in the chat. Let us help you with it. There's going to be a tracking system that's going to help solve that issue and allow you to be a better leader to your organization. Here's one question that I always get asked. As a business owner, do I have to be the one who handles the numbers? Nicole, I hate bookkeeping. Do not make me look at QuickBooks. I do not want to. Please, God, no. And the answer is, as a business owner, yes, you have to pay attention to your numbers. I would encourage having a set meeting, having a set hour every single week where you sit down with your bookkeeper or your accountant and you go over your numbers. However, if you are not an expert in bookkeeping or accounting, we definitely encourage getting a bookkeeper, getting an accountant. If you need a recommendation or need help looking in the right places, please let us know. We'd love to assist you in that. Because in order to be a great leader to your organization and to be a great leader to your business, and in order to plan a future for your families and for yourself, you have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. You have to get comfortable with knowing your numbers. And this is one of the activities that so often gets neglected. I think for business owners, it feels counterintuitive to step out of the business and actually work on it. But this is the best investment that you can make to your company, is sitting down and committing to knowing your numbers and working on your business instead of in it. So what I want to do now with the next couple minutes, guys, is I'd love to open up the floor to you guys, to anybody who has any questions about anything that we discussed today. Jose, I want to answer your question that you mentioned earlier in the meeting. Bryce, if you want to take back over, if you want to share your screen and take back over that.
And Nicole, what I wouldn't mind asking the people right now to respond is, what is one next focus do you want to have based on this information, based on what Harley and Nicole talked about? What is your action item that you have? Do you mind either sharing that in chat or opening up your mic and sharing that just for a moment? Because we want to hear, well, what are you going to do about this? What's the next action?
And so, Jose, I want to take a moment while everybody's kind of typing out their next action or any questions that they have. Jose, I want to address your question, and I would love Harley, Bryce, Tim, Robert, if anybody has any feedback, because unfortunately Jose gets to listen to me talk all the time. So it might be nice for him to hear somebody else. But I think that Zach with Roofing and Siding Smiths did a pretty good job of answering your question. There's not a super easy way to get everything out of your head when it comes to how you want to do, how you want things done, when it comes to what you need your project manager to be checking on. It's going to be a lot of sitting down and literally getting all what's in your head and getting it down as a system and onto a document. The good news is that us at Redmond Growth, we already have a lot of checklists that are probably going to serve you really well. And then with working with me, during the laser coaching call or during our meeting, I can kind of help with it too, with kind of getting that information out of your head and getting it to be a solid checklist. Software programs like Builder Trend can help when it comes to holding your team accountable and keeping track of your jobs. But when it comes to getting that information, you know, your standards, your way of doing things out of your head and creating a system around it, Zach said it right. The first year working with us, he was documenting systems. That's what he was doing, systems and scripts. And now he's able to step out of his business for months at a time. But it is a lot of work on the front end to get to that point.
If I might chime in with some feedback, Jose, I know that a lot of people find it help whenever they're able to not be there alone, just sitting there thinking of ideas on the fly. So I have found it help myself to have someone actually just be there as a soundboard, where if I'm what kind of business are you working?
It's general contracting. So
General contracting. Okay. Remodeling. Okay. So let's say you're trying to build a checklist for you had a situation with how to build a deck, right?
Yeah.
Now getting into all the specifics of how to build a deck. There's a lot of different variation you could do, but at the very least, you could figure out, okay, well, on pretty much any deck job, what does it look like from start to finish?
And just start with the basics and then
start with basics
from there.
And if you have someone like a better half is a lot of times helpful for this, or like a trusted lead tech, if you have them with you to bounce it off and them to help ask the questions of what's the next step. And maybe if you're not like a gifted writer, you have them actually taking the notes and writing things
or
down
me
for you.
During a meeting.
And your coach.
Or during a meeting with Nicole. Then that can be really helpful. I've seen that be helpful with other guys. So just a thoughtful suggestion.
Yeah. Okay, well, guys, I want us all to be thinking about what action are we going to take? What am I going to start getting stubborn about in my business? What am I going to start dedicating my time to so I have time working on the business instead of in it? If you need help with that, schedule a laser coaching call with one of us. But I want to close it all out on a good note. I want us to, on the count of 3, or let's say, we'll do 3, 2, 1 growth. It's how we like to close out our meeting. So if everybody could unmute, could we all unmute real quick? I want to see it happening. I want to see it happening. Robert, that includes you. Unmute.
Oh,
Okay.
I was talking. I thought I was unmuted. Wow.
No. Okay.
Yeah, you guys got to humor us with this. We're not going to stop making you guys do this.
It's going to happen every time. Every time. All
this
right.
is the best part of the meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, guys. So 3, 2, 1.
Bro!